All right, so hello everyone once again. Welcome. My name is Fadl and Tarzi. I'm CEO of Nexford University. We're really excited to have you all with us today to talk about designing growth in the age of AI. Welcome, Tey.
Hey, how's it going? How's everyone?
Good. All right. So let's get started. So around the world, professionals and organizations are trying to make sense of how AI will shape work across every industry. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. I'm joined by Tey Bannerman, a former partner at McKinsey, one of the most thoughtful voices on digital transformation and the future of work. So over the next 45 minutes or the next hour or so, we're going to explore what's changing, where the real opportunities lie, and how you can build the skills to lead digital transformation. Feel free to share your questions, please, throughout the session. We have a Q&A section. All questions are welcome. You can share them anonymously or not. We're going to run some polls as we go through the webinar as well. Please do participate. It will help us understand who's on the call and tailor the content live. That being said, Tey, maybe we can just start by a quick introduction, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then we can hop into some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tey Bannerman, I started my career as a software engineer, moved into digital product design, and then I was most recently at McKinsey, management consultancy, for almost 9 years, where I was doing a lot of work in digital transformation, AI implementation, and I was a partner at McKinsey leading what's all our design function across Europe, and a lot of our AI implementation work, largely in financial services and consumer, but then also bits and pieces across different industries, working around the world. So it's been a very storied career so far, and really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us again. All right. So what we're doing, we're going to talk about just setting sort of the framework or foundations to begin with. Before this session, we got dozens of questions from across the world. So starting with digital transformation thing. So it means something different to everyone these days, right? Everyone's talking about it worldwide, but what it actually means varies. So can you just help us lay the foundation? How do you define digital transformation sort of in the age of AI, and what's changed the most over the last few years?
Yeah, so if I think about when I first started in the digital world or digital space many years ago, digital transformation really meant how do we embed kind of new core functionalities and tools into an organization? So how do we kind of, get the organization to start using Microsoft Office, databases, but also to transform a lot of the wiring under the system. So to go from kind of manual processes to more automated processes. And when you think about what that means today in the age of AI, when we have, let's say, a new set of capabilities that machines can do, a lot of that transformation means transforming the way we work. So transforming the way employees work, transforming the way business functions operate, and then really changing the way that's been for many years or decades in many cases.
Awesome. All right, so we got to move on to AI pretty quickly. You've said the real question isn't will AI replace us, but what becomes possible when people stop doing mechanical work. Was that something you said?
It was something I said, yeah.
All right, so can you expand on that? Help us understand.
Yeah, so I think when I said this, I was taking a view to really take a step back and think everything that we're seeing with AI. On the one hand, you have headlines that I see almost every week going, AI is going to take job X, or AI is going to completely eradicate kind of function Y. And on the other hand, you have the reality of what a lot of companies are seeing, where they're trying to bring in and implement AI tools, but not necessarily seeing any value. So I think when you take those two things and then you think about the companies that are really being successful with AI and you look at what they're doing differently, they're fundamentally also taking that step back and going, okay, we now have this new set of capabilities. How does that change the way we work? And then when you look at a lot of how that's changing, what you realize is that a lot of work that we considered work, writing a report or, summarizing a phone call, taking notes during a phone call, a lot of that work is essentially now mechanical work. If a machine can do it much better than we can, then there's a question of, was that fundamentally work to begin with? And then when you also look at where did people really kind of get value and joy from the work that they were doing, a lot of the tasks that AI can do today are not, tasks that people were fundamentally getting joy from. So that's where kind of that statement came from.
Okay, so to be super clear to people, so by mechanical, you don't mean physically mechanical, you mean like repetitive in nature.
Repetitive in nature, or essentially that a machine can now do. There are some tasks that aren't necessarily mechanical where, AI can generate images, for example.
Yes.
It can kind of complete the task of going from an idea to an image, whereas, in the past, it might have taken someone hours, weeks, months. So that is essentially now mechanical work because a machine can do that work. It doesn't necessarily mean it can, create the story or have the idea behind it, but the actual act of that creation is mechanical work, yeah.
Okay, understood. All right, so we're going to talk about technology, human advantage, skills, a whole bunch of different things today. But before we go into that, just because we have, sort of a rare opportunity here, someone who's worked at, McKinsey, spent many, many years there. You must have worked on projects where millions and millions of dollars have been invested, rightly and wrongly. Mm-hmm. So just help us first, sort of by sharing this brief anecdote, if you will, on the biggest digital transformation failure you witnessed. And what can our audience learn from that? Some sort of colossal failure that maybe could have been avoided.
Yeah, it's a great question. And if I think about, I'm thinking about one specific example. I can't name the company, but essentially, it was something where the plan was this would last 2 years, and almost 5 years later, it was still ongoing. And in retrospect, you can see a lot of the missteps that were made along the way. So, when we say failure, one, it dragged on way past its cost and time estimate. Two, employees fundamentally didn't adopt any of the new tools. And then three, it really kind of, created a situation where they were highly dependent on multiple tech vendors, which is what what was not part of the initial plan. So from an additional cost perspective, it was overblown as well. And if, looking back, I think one of the first missteps when I think back is they started by going, we have these vendors, we have these set of tools or these set of technologies that we want to bring in. And then, they sought out to go, okay, let's bring them in and then we'll work out essentially how to change everything else after the fact. And I think that was the first misstep, where the strategy wasn't, let's really understand how the different business functions work today, understand truly what they actually need and how they'll drive value, or how they'll kind of either be more effective or kind of change the way they work with these new tools. And then and only then, when we have that clear vision and strategy, do we then define and decide what tools to bring in and where. So that was the first misstep. And then the second misstep was not getting the actual employees involved to really and truly understand how employees work, and why past digital initiatives had failed, understanding the culture of the company. Yeah. By co-designing with employees, you really start to understand these elements. And so this was very, very top down. I think the third misstep is that once they brought in tools, there was very little by the way of a feedback loop. So it was essentially, okay, we've dropped these new tools and technologies onto the workforce. Things will happen and everyone will start using them. That's fundamentally not the case. So
adoption.
So adoption, but adoption needs to go hand in hand with getting feedback from employees on what's working well, what's not working well. Fundamentally, where do things plug into workflows? Where do workflows need to change? And without that feedback loop, you essentially had technology that was not being used at all. And so, in retrospect, I think those were three of the biggest missteps. And this was a very large organization, had a culture, a very risk-averse culture, didn't have a culture of innovation. And so people were very averse to changing the way they work. And when you have a culture like that, you need to do a lot more to actually plan out and kind of mandate, here's how we're going to work, here's how it looks different. And there was none of that.
Yeah. Okay. So Tey, so this really sort of connects to this next question around what we teach. So very often at Nexford, what we teach is, and digital transformation starts with strategy, right? Or specifically with design thinking in particular. So from not with tech, which often is the approach companies take, right? What tool are we going to get to automate something specific? It might be a process that's outdated to begin with, but we're going to automate it as opposed to changing the process itself. So from your experience, why is it that many still approach transformation as tech projects?
I think it's the issue is probably twofold. One, it's where the budget lies, and then a lot of large organizations kind of
With
the
the tech
budget
teams.
dictates who takes ownership of that initiative or project. And so
Okay.
if you have an IT budget earmarked, then it kind of falls into the remit and realm of IT. I think the second kind of reason is that it requires a really clear vision. And I think a lot of organizations take a step of incrementality. It's okay, we're bringing a new set of tools and it's going to improve efficiency by X%. Whereas a
Right.
lot of technology and now we're talking AI, it requires a fundamental rethinking of here's how the way we work changes, and without that, then
Yeah.
and I think once you have that, then the second step you go, actually this is not a tech project. This is fundamentally a workflow reinvention project that
Yes.
requires bringing together multiple functions as opposed to just having it as a tech initiative.
Okay. All right. So let's move from there into skills. So if it's not a tech initiative and it's workflow, often that workflow needs to be informed by data, right? So
Absolutely,
if you don't have the right data to begin with, then your whole decision-making process may be flawed, right? So one of the most important skills we try to teach within our digital transformation program is turning data into insights, not just like dashboards. So how can leaders make this smart, I would say, sort of data-driven decisions, but without losing human judgment? It's just a challenge we see all the time, right? You want to use the data, but often the data just is missing that context, right?
Yeah.
How do you balance between the two?
Yeah, and I think it's a challenge for many leaders because I think on the one hand, I think that there's a challenge of data literacy. How do we actually read the data in a way that actually drives insight and meaningful decision making, which requires you having the right data, being able to interpret it and being able to trust it. And I think the second element is, as a leader, how do I not undermine my own decision making and my position or role as a leader by kind of deferring everything to data. So, and I think those two things often conflict, and I think that's where you have a lot of leaders either kind of foregoing data-driven decision making, or in some cases relying too heavily on it and creating a culture where kind of we don't make any decision without data, even if it's a human judgment decision. I think the first step is really being clear in what the data can help you decide. Because all data by its definition is backwards looking. You can't have data from the future.
Right.
And so I think understanding, okay, we have data, it tells us a story about a particular period or moment in time with a particular context, and then the next step is, okay, how do we use our understanding of what that data or insight means to then shape what decision we're going to make in future. And a lot of times it's a combination of taking the data and then using your own judgment, experiences, and your own understanding of the context of the business to then say, what decision are we going to make, and to what end does the data inform that decision? Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. Okay, let me take a pause and take some questions from the audience here. So we have one question here. In an age where AI does a lot of work, is there not a chance of handicapping mankind's creative thinking skills, especially on the younger ones? How would you answer that?
I mean, there is definitely a chance. And I think there's already a lot of research and evidence showing that when people have an over reliance on AI and use tools like ChatGPT and just put in a
Yes.
prompt, get an answer, and don't utilize that critical thinking, they start to actually lose that critical thinking. And if I recall, there was a study from MIT, and
Yes,
it
yes,
actually
I
showed
saw
that,
the beautiful visual, the brain
yeah,
visual.
exactly.
Yes,
Yeah. The three skills that erode are creativity,
yes,
decision
critical
making, and memory, I
thinking.
think. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I think, it does require a conscious effort to teach people how to use these tools in a way that doesn't erode. But I think, there are also many brilliant artists and creators who use AI not just to get an output, but as part of the process and as part
yes.
of a new way of working. And so I think there is a lot we can also learn from how different people are utilizing AI tools to be even more creative than they otherwise would. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So let's move on to jobs, right? And we'll talk a lot about what you mentioned earlier, how people are using AI to get more creative and so forth in a moment. But we need to talk about jobs. It's obviously a hot question all across the world. So the reality is, let's just say it the way it is. The reality is some jobs will disappear. That's just a fact, right?
Yeah.
Over the next months and years. Well, which type of jobs do you think will be the first to go and why?
Yeah, I mean, what I always like to say is a lot of tasks will disappear, and the jobs
Okay.
that are largely those tasks that can be automated are the ones that will,
Okay.
either be completely reshaped or no longer necessary because you have AI tools and kind of platforms that can do them. And I think, I think the ones that are already at risk are the ones that are highly automatable. I mean, you have, some, accounting and HR functions that are already, you're seeing
Okay.
kind of, big job loss because you essentially have people that were, spending a lot of time creating reports, analyzing data, but analyzing data not to make, new decisions or to innovate, but analyzing data in order to create a report that then gets filed away. And I think,
So
and
HR, accounting, some
yeah,
jobs there. Okay.
yeah, and I mean, you're also seeing, software engineering jobs, more
Yeah,
junior developers. And I remember
definitely.
speaking to a founder of a startup, and this was more than 2 years ago. And even 2 years ago, he said, "We're not hiring junior developers anymore,
Yeah,
junior
yeah.
engineers anymore." And a big part of the reason is you have the AI coding tools that essentially do the job of a junior engineer. And I think that's a little bit, that's risky because
Okay.
without having kind of graduates or juniors being able to come in, learn,
Um,
understand, and get that on-the-job experience and situational awareness, then you're gonna quickly run into a situation in,
sure.
5-10 years where you don't have people that can actually perform that function
I mean, it's a
anymore.
similar. I think McKinsey was dabbling with the same challenge, right? Like
Yeah,
to become a partner at McKinsey, you're not hired as a partner, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
if they
yeah.
stop hiring entry-level talent, how are they going to build a future pool of partners, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think I have seen kind of one organization that's doing something interesting in that they are not reducing hiring of junior employees. They're essentially adapting the way they work, where
Yeah.
they now invest a lot more time shadowing,
Okay.
and less time kind of, in the manual report creation, and they're also investing more time in teaching juniors how to use AI tools, but in a way where they're still maintaining their critical thinking. They're still learning a lot of the soft skills
Right.
that are necessary to kind of advance at the company. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So let's follow up on that question, Tay. So we have this theory that often folks who are in those roles that are going to get automated are potentially the best candidates to drive or to lead digital transformation as well, because they have the domain expertise, right? So let's say my finance department is going to go through a big digital transformation project. And I've been working in finance for the past 20 years. And now I go and I build a bunch of sort of skills in product and design and
Yeah,
digital transformation related skills. Am I not going to be an ideal candidate to lead that transformation
absolutely.
compared to a
Yeah.
techie without the domain knowledge?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and this was another kind of study that came out, I think it was last week by McKinsey, where they showed that the organizations that are most successful with AI are the ones where they have that domain expertise,
Right.
who are leading those transformation efforts or those AI implementation efforts, because it's very difficult for someone or a team to come in that has no understanding of, HR workflows or
Exactly.
what a good
Exactly.
HR function looks like, to come in and go, hey, we're going to completely reinvent that. So
Exactly.
kind of having that knowledge and experience is going to be massively useful in moving forward. And I think you're going to have companies essentially looking for those people who don't necessarily have product experience, but that's the product experience is not what they look for first. The experience they look for first is, what's your history and your kind of lived experience working in these functions, and then you
Right.
combine it with, with your ability to kind of break down tasks and to lead
Yeah.
transformation.
So let's double click on this a little bit because this is sort of an area of opportunity and hope for people out there in jobs that are going to get automated. So it's very important,
Mm,
right? So what advice would you offer here, particularly in terms of skills, right? So if I'm
mm,
transitioning from, say, finance or HR or marketing, and I now want to pursue a career in digital transformation of that function, we've
mhm.
established I'm probably going to be ahead of people who don't have that domain
Yeah,
expertise. Okay, what sort of skills do I need on top of the functional skills? What are
I
the
think.
top 5 things?
Yeah, I think in no particular order. One is
Yeah.
definitely an understanding of what's possible with AI. I think it's very difficult to lead a transformation if you don't have a clear understanding
Mhm.
of the art of the possible with technology, and
Okay.
kind of and almost having a perspective on how that technology can change, or evolve your function. I think communication is a very important one, because you will
Always.
be communicating both upwards and downwards, communicating across functions, communicating with engineers, communicating with executives, and knowing how to adapt your communication style to kind of, to different individuals and modes is going to be critical. I think, I really think creativity is going to be an important skill. Being able to
Hmm.
think out of the box a little bit, to be able to go, okay, we've just faced a new challenge we haven't seen before. Let's think critically and think through how to actually kind of get to a place that is not so obvious. I think product skills and experience are also going to be important. Being able to break down work and tasks, being able to set roadmaps, being able to really plan out, hey, here is how we're going to get to this new place most effectively. Is that 4 or 3?
I
I think
think
it's
we're
4.
at 4. Yes, we are
And
at
what's the
4.
fifth?
Right.
What's the fifth?
I mean, I mean, these are 4 heavy ones, and communications, I think, is probably the most critical. It seems like a
Yeah.
basic one, right? That's existed for decades, but every piece of research in the world still ranks communications as
Yeah.
top 5, skill at highest demand and still in high shortage.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I couldn't
But I
agree
think a
more.
big component of communication is what we just said around being able to adapt your communication style and tone,
Yes,
and adapt to different contexts and situations. I
right,
think,
right.
I think, communication has almost this perception that it's easy, that, you learn to talk as a kid, so therefore you can communicate. And a lot of people miss the nuance that of, the larger the team or the larger the
Mhm.
circle
Mhm.
of people you work with, the more you have to learn how to adapt, not just how you communicate, but how you interpret others' communication.
Certainly, 100%. And if you, particularly like if you're in a tech career, the way engineers communicate with one another is going to be different from the way an
Yeah,
engineer is going to communicate with a finance person,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so let's take on communications for a second before we go to, we have a lot of open questions, but I want to talk about culture and context for a second, which is very closely linked to communications here. So recently, you highlighted that AI systems often reflect Western cultural assumptions, right?
Mhm.
That's a big thing. So everything from tone to conflict resolution. How big of a challenge is that for global companies deploying AI today? A lot of the people on the call today are going to be from non-US, non-UK
Yeah.
markets, and they're going to be dabbling with this issue specifically. How big of a problem is this?
I think it's going to be possibly one of the biggest problems for global companies. I
Yeah.
think historically it has always been not necessarily a problem, but a consideration.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been with a global company where they were moving into a new market and did not say we need to have local people who are on the ground, who understand the culture, who understand the context, who understand how to adapt everything from our brand to kind of, the way we do business in that country. I think where with the advent of AI tools has gone a little bit backwards, where companies don't realize that you still need that knowledge and insight, and
Mm.
defer a lot of it to the AI tool. And so the example I gave was with Klarna when they rolled out customer service in 150 plus countries,
Right.
using GPT-4 or ChatGPT
Yeah.
as a base,
Yeah.
but translating a piece of content is very different to communicating with someone from a different culture. And I think anyone that's traveled to a different country, even if you can speak the language, there is a lot
Yeah.
about kind of tone, unspoken rules, even things like pausing, that kind of where if you don't adapt, then you're quickly going to lose customer loyalty and trust. And I think the challenge a lot of organizations face is how do you, one, have a clear understanding of what can fail, but then also how do you not just defer to a large language model to do all that for you, because it fundamentally can't. Yeah.
100%. So this is maybe a difficult question, Tay, but try to offer the audience here an opportunity here. So if I'm in an emerging market or a developing market, whatever you want to call it, anywhere in the world, in Asia, in Africa, in South America, and I just heard this anecdote. Okay, so there's maybe this big problem where global companies are using language models not built for their local market, right? They're
Mm.
lacking in context. So what's the
Uh-huh.
opportunity for me? If I'm in any of these markets, how can I leverage that and make money off of it?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I think there's probably going to be a very big opportunity for almost translator type roles. People that are
Okay.
able to say, okay, there's a company entering a new market, and they
Okay.
have AI tools and technologies powering a lot of the way they work, everything from customer
Okay.
service, HR, and so on. I think there's going to be a need to say, how do we best translate that automation capability to be best fit for this local context? And that means everything from being able to adapt the prompts that control the LLM, to adapting workflows to be able to kind of work as best as they can in that new context. And I think a lot of organizations don't have that capability inherently. And so I think it's either going to be, okay, we're moving to a new market and we need to hire these brand new capabilities and roles that haven't existed
Mm.
before, or we're going to need to, seek out companies, agencies, local talents who can support us on that.
And these guys are going to be doing what? Are they going to be building content? Are they going to be translating? What is the role? Like, let's try to make it sort of as
Yeah,
practical as
yeah.
possible for
So
people.
I think there are probably three elements of the role. One is helping the organization understand what needs to be adapted. It's going to be
Okay.
different in every country and context and
Okay,
industry.
so let's take a, sorry, an
But
example here. Okay, so let's say I'm helping a company automate their customer service.
yeah,
So the company's building this software in America. So
yeah,
they're like, okay, every question we get, we're going to respond by email. But I'm in India and people don't open email, so it needs to be WhatsApp. So I need to tell these companies you need to integrate with WhatsApp, for
exactly. So
example.
that's one example, but it's not just
Okay.
the channels, it's what you can and can't say. It's
Okay.
also how you actually resolve a customer's issue. I mean,
Okay. The actual
there
language.
the actual language, but the action you take. So there's some companies and
Ah,
sorry, there's some countries and cultures where resolving an issue by giving a customer a discount is absolutely fine. There's some cultures
yeah.
where that's an insult,
Yes.
and that's not language. That's essentially what
That's a
action do
good.
we
Okay.
take. So
Okay.
so I
That's
think
a good
so. There's
example.
one bucket around helping them understand what to actually do differently. I think there's another
Okay.
bucket around how you actually translate that into action. So going from here's what to do to here's how to do it. So do you need to adapt prompts? Do you need to build a new translation layer? Do you need to fundamentally change the tool you're using because the tool or platform you're using can't meet these objectives? Or do you need to use a different local LLM? So there's the, how do you do it? And then I think that the third element is how do you measure impact? Because the metrics that you use in one context and culture, yes, a lot of them will be similar, but there'll be others that change. So, there'll be some kind of, countries and cultures where resolving as quickly as possible is the metric you want to use. There are others where resolving as quickly as possible, again, loses customer loyalty because, in Japan, for example, if it's, quick resolution is not good resolution for a customer. It's okay, you're dismissing me and you're dismissing the fact that I've been a loyal customer, for example.
Okay, interesting. All right. Let's take some questions from the audience. So we have a question here on, I'm just going to pick a random one. In the organization where AI has been implemented, who takes the blame if there's bias in the output that causes financial challenges? What have you seen?
Who takes the blame if there's bias? Sorry.
Yeah, if there's biases or mistakes in the output, who typically takes the blame? Is it the tech guys? Is it the finance guys? Is it someone else?
Being very honest, in a lot of the implementations I've seen, nobody takes the blame for that. And I think that is almost one of the biggest risks, is in that blame is diluted. A lot of times it's, this is, you blame OpenAI, you blame the LLM as opposed to, because I think in a lot of organizations, they haven't yet fully defined that governance and risk, those governance and risk workflows to be able to say who owns this particular output or who owns if there's a failure here. But I think ideally, it shouldn't be a single person. I think ideally you should be training teams that understand that risk and that embed these processes from the beginning, so that kind of you have essentially an executive. The more senior the person who takes the hit, the more seriously the whole organization is going to take it.
Yeah. Okay, let's take another one from Jamie Beth. So she's saying, as an accountant, how can one leverage using AI for smooth flow of operation within the finance space? So maybe not like very specifically in that function, but tell us what are examples of what you've seen within finance and accounting where AI is really meaningful in achieving some business flow?
Yeah, I've seen some brilliant use cases where you have, finance, like virtual assistants, where historically a lot of the work that would be done in Excel manually, you now have a virtual assistant where you can go, I want this outcome, and it goes and does it for you. You also have tools like Manus that some organizations are bringing in, where you essentially set the AI platform a task and you can watch it go and perform that task. So everything from moving cells to creating macros, and I've seen that really transform kind of a lot of finance functions, where they now say, actually, we can spend most of our time not on these tedious manual tasks, but on kind of, getting to the outcomes that we need to get to, or spending more time with kind of, our internal customers within the business. And so similar to how we started the conversation, I think a lot of organizations are finding that it's transforming their workflows in a way where a lot of the tedious work is not being done by a person.
Yeah. All right. So there was a question on leveraging the Klarna example. Would training AI tools on a more diverse data set reduce those cultural mishaps, is that, in other words, is the solution going to happen on the large models, or does each organization, you think 5 years from now, will each organization have to build their own cultural data sets, or sort of culturally tuned data sets?
I think it'll likely be a combination of the two. We're very early with generative AI in the enterprise. I think the large model, foundational model providers like OpenAI are always increasing their training data and are going to be training with more diverse data sets. I'm actually doing a piece of research that is looking at the latest models and seeing if they've become better at the cultural bias side of things. But I think you can't change the fact that context is king. So, in an organization going into a new country, there is a lot about not just the country and culture, but about how the organization works, about who your customers are, about how you market, that the large language model doesn't know. So there is, I don't think you'll ever get past the need for the organization to actually very thoughtfully design how they roll out AI tools in each jurisdiction.
So that's likely going to be a job that we will see more of in the
Yeah,
future, perhaps
yeah,
one that hasn't existed in the past.
absolutely.
That person in charge of sort of culturally localizing models.
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, let's move on to Susan. So Suzanne, she's saying, what are your thoughts on organizations jumping onto the AI bandwagon before having the digital fundamentals? In other words, she's saying, okay, let's say I'm an organization, I realize I'm missing a bunch of basics, but I still want to sort of leapfrog almost and jump on the bandwagon. Can one sort of parallel track, or is there sort of a recipe for getting basics done first?
I haven't seen any organization successfully do it. And I think that a lot of the fundamentals are data. I mean, if you don't have good data, you're never going to be able to do anything meaningful with AI at the enterprise level or at the corporate level, because you essentially, you can, yes, bring in ChatGPT, but it's going to be the same ChatGPT all your competitors have. That's one fundamental that you can't bypass. Another is culture. I mean, if you don't have a culture where people actually want to use digital tools, where people actually want to change, then you're not going to bypass anything. You're going to be in the same place that you were. And I think the third is probably your kind of technology foundations. AI tools and platforms, to be really effective at the enterprise or corporate level, need to be plugged into something, which is whether it's your knowledge base, whether it's your accounting platforms, whether it's your HR. Without that, then again, the tools become essentially useless. So again, I have not seen an organization successfully leapfrog all of that, but I've seen some do it quickly, where it's almost accelerated any programs they had in place. But I have also seen a lot of companies as the who was it? Was it who asked the question? Sorry,
Susan.
As Susan said, jump on the bandwagon, where it's either we have pressure from our board or investors to be seen to be doing something with AI, or we feel that we're missing out. And I think in a lot of those instances, you see companies will talk to a vendor, bring in a tool, but not have a clear strategy and a clear vision. What are we actually trying to do? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Tey, let's move into some of the earlier questions we had and set the stage on sort of future. So I think one thing a lot of people don't realize is, at least according to our research, only about 15%, 1/5, of global GDP is in the digital economy. So just think about that for a second, because we always read these headlines about Nvidia and Microsoft and Facebook and so forth, all these tech startups doing cool things. But in reality, this whole tech world constitutes only a fraction of global GDP. So what that means is the vast majority of businesses still have not gone through any transformation. So 85% of the world still hasn't gone through any transformation. So if that's true, where do you see the next big waves of AI-driven growth? Like over the next few years, whether it's by sector or specific occupation, like where are there going to be massive opportunities where people can look for careers and build skills around those specific opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually in a lot of more traditional industries, industries like construction, healthcare, where they may be starting from kind of a position further back than industries like banking and retail. But what you're finding is that a lot of these industries are having to accelerate because I think on the one hand, they are coming under threat from smaller, more nimble players, and there is more pressure to transform. And so I do think there's going to be a lot more opportunity in a lot more of those traditional industries that don't have big teams of engineers and don't have a lot of the foundations yet. And so I do think the whole AI boom is going to give a kick to a lot of those companies, and that's where there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
So traditional folks like construction is one. Anyone else comes to mind? Any other industries?
I think healthcare is going to be a big one, and I think that goes hand in hand with changing regulation. In a lot of countries, regulation is now allowing for kind of healthcare providers and healthcare systems to change to be more digital. So I do think construction, mining, healthcare, kind of I was gonna like manufacturing as well. Yeah.
Okay. So we have an interesting, I don't know if you have an answer to this, but we have an interesting question on passenger experience. Perhaps this person works at an airline, and we have Jafar's question here. So, how can AI be used to enhance passenger experience, maybe even improve efficiency in flight attendance duties, others in the airline sectors?
Yeah,
Any thoughts on that?
I can actually answer this one because I was working with an airline last year.
Okay.
And what they were working on or building was a way for passengers to have an AI assistant within the airline's app that helps them with everything from booking travel to and from the airport, finding their gate, but also stating their preferences. So understanding, okay, this person likes to get to the airport very early, or this person is a nervous flyer, a lot of the data that an airline traditionally wouldn't have. And what they were also finding in testing was that this information and insight was really useful to attendants, to flight attendants, because it meant that they could give a more personalized experience to each customer. And so what the airline was doing was essentially kind of broadening the value they bring to customers from just getting them from point A to B to assisting them with the entire travel experience, even due to hotels and broader travel experience. So I do think that's coming, and I do think that it's possibly going to differentiate airlines where passengers will choose airline A over airline B because they get more of that personalized experience. It decreases their nerves when they fly. They get their favorite drink without having to ask for it. All of these things.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. So by extension, let's talk about logistics for a second. Any thoughts on how AI can be used in logistics specifically?
Yeah, I actually saw a very interesting use case from Maersk a few weeks ago where they're using AI to predict logistics failures, I think up to 2 weeks in advance. So looking at everything from weather patterns to historical patterns, they are able to go, okay, there's likely going to be a blockage or a route diversion next week, the week after. Therefore, we take this intervention or this action now. And I think the latest figure was it's saving them more than $300 million a year by just having this new predictive power. So I do think logistics is going to move from more point in time, backwards looking function to using disparate sources of data to have better predictive power, so that you're kind of preempting and diverting routes and so on long before the actual thing happens.
Okay. We have to touch on regulation given it's AI. So let's take a question from Solomon asking, who should regulate AI? To ensure it benefits everyone. Like, it's a big question the whole world's sort of dabbling with. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a very broad question because AI isn't one thing. AI used in the healthcare system for doctors to, transcribe their notes is very different to, AI used in drug discovery is very different to AI used by a bank to look at your customer data. So I do think that the regulators of each individual industry understand the most with respect to the risks, because that's where it starts. What are the risks? What can go wrong? And then use an understanding of the technology to define or redefine regulation for that particular industry. I think that's going to go hand in hand with companies kind of regulating themselves. Because I think you're seeing a lot of governance functions within companies grow to account for the fact that they now have new sets of risks with AI, inaccuracy, cybersecurity, and so on. So I think it's, I don't see a world where there's one overarching kind of, government AI governance because so much of it is context and use case dependent.
Okay. So you don't believe that, U.S. government or some other big government should be governing companies. Like, let's say OpenAI reaches a level of super intelligence and now,
Uh-huh.
we're 3, 4 years down the line. You don't believe that there should be government control at that level? It should be more sector specific?
I don't, only because
Okay.
I have yet to see a government effectively build
Yeah.
technology
Fair,
and
fair.
effectively, control tech. It might happen one day, but I've yet to see it. And so I think that's where a lot of my thinking comes from. Where, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, governments
Okay.
aren't typically known for technology or innovation, or
Of course.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we have a bunch of people on the call that are going to be trying to drive transformation projects within their own organizations, right?
Mm.
So for those folks, it's tempting for organizations to see AI mainly as a cost-cutting tool, right? And many are probably going to keep doing so. So
Hmm.
what's your advice to people on this call when their own leaders or bosses approach AI from a cost-cutting mindset?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first piece of advice would be show them the data, show them the evidence. There hasn't been a
Okay.
single report that's come out by, consultancies or kind of, even Gartner and so on that shows that the companies that are using AI to just for
Mm,
efficiency or cut costs are doing it well. I mean, you have everything from, MIT saying it's a 95% fail rate, McKinsey saying that 75% of, AI initiatives aren't working. So, I mean, all the evidence shows that the companies that take that route are not effective, are not seeing the efficiency, not seeing the revenue uplift. And every single piece of research I've seen shows that the companies that take a transformative approach are the ones that actually see that benefit. So I would start by going, yes, like we can go for it, but here's report A, B, and C that shows that that's the wrong strategy to take.
yeah, yeah, fair enough. All right, so we have a question from Alex in the healthcare sector. So it is a broad question, but he's a consultant, he or she is a consultant and analyst in IT at healthcare, designing healthcare systems. And I'm sure a lot of people are asking similar questions. What would you advise if someone wanted to figure out what are the tool sets that they should master to be
Mm.
well positioned to drive transformation? So we spoke a little bit earlier about communications, critical thinking, anything beyond that, anything technical that you're saying sort of these are the essentials on the more technical side?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I mean, there are probably two levels. There are, okay, what are the broad set of skills that everyone should have, and then
Yeah,
what is specific to your industry or your domain. I think, I mean, really understanding how foundational models work, how they're trained, where they can go wrong, I think is going to
yeah.
be important because then you therefore understand what the real kind of, failure modes are, the risks are, and therefore what to watch out for, what to plan in advance for when you're leading a transformation. I think the second part is, okay, let's say you work in finance or your domain is banking, understanding on the one hand what where others have failed in your domain, but then I think a skill in being able to break down the work or tasks that you traditionally do so that you therefore understand where can AI augment, where can AI replace, where does the human kind of element remain. So and I think that's going to be an important skill
Mm.
moving forward because yes, there'll be a lot generalizable, but I think a lot that's also very specific to individual companies and individual functions.
100%. So I know we don't have a ton of time left, but so I want to move back to your career for a second. Um, so, you've said that your rapid rise at McKinsey came from being stupid, difficult, and unapologetic, right? I think these were the three things. You've
Uh-huh.
also, looking at your profile, looks like you've been promoted 4 times in 6 years.
Uh-huh.
So if that's the case, maybe you weren't so stupid. So, what can you share with our audience today? What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So, yeah. So I think when people hear the word stupid, they think, not very intelligent.
Yes.
And how I see it is not being afraid to ask questions and not being afraid to say you don't know. I think not just in the consulting world, I think in many business contexts, a lot goes unsaid and people kind of, hold back from asking questions that would help them, not only help them gain knowledge, but help them advance a task because they don't want to look stupid. And I think, being not necessarily being unapologetic and saying, hey, I don't know this, teach me, or hey, what does this thing mean? Goes a really long way. And I think once you start doing it, you realize that people don't judge you. Because I've been in so many instances where I've asked a question where it could have been, okay, this is a stupid question because this is so simple. And afterwards, 4 or 5 other people have gone, yeah, I wanted to ask that question too, but I didn't want to feel stupid. So that's what I meant by that. And the second element being, the second element is
Difficult.
really understanding where you should, how do I best put it? I think a lot of people kind of put on a mask when they go to work, where you have to be perceived or seen a certain way. And yes, to an extent, there are, some industries where, banking, you have to wear a certain thing, but a lot of people don't show their personality because there's this perception that you have to be seen a certain way. And I mean, I've very, very rarely been in situations where me showing my personality was a downside. It makes you stand out in a positive way. It makes you stand out from the crowd, but it also helps people see you as a human being. And so that was kind of the second element. And I found that to be kind of, just like really fantastic in advancing my own career. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You're absolutely right about asking the right questions and asking any questions. And we see it in education often. Like a lot of folks, like today, the average age of an undergraduate student in America online is about 36, maybe 34. So, a lot of people even coming back in to seek education are thinking to themselves, oh, is it going to be weird if, like, I've been working for 10 years, I'm coming back to get a degree, how will that be perceived publicly, right? But ultimately, the outcome is worth it. So going back to some of the questions we have here, let's take another one. There is one around, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from James Manieka in regards to AI integration? Do you know what that's about?
The biggest lesson I've learned with regards to AI integration?
Yeah.
Is you have to start with people and the problems you're solving for. I've spoken to so many companies that have started with what can AI do and not what problems do we need solving or where do we see our opportunities at. By far, that's the biggest lesson, yeah.
Yeah, okay. There is often this misperception as well, Tey, around data privacy in the sense that, and we have a lot of questions on this in the chat, okay, well, if my data needs to be private, how can I use AI for it? So maybe help the audience understand here the power of models that can actually be used offline and that in reality, OpenAI isn't the only answer out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have multiple models running on my laptop that never communicate with the cloud or OpenAI, and there's so many guides online that show you how to do this, and it's really easy to download an entire model, have it running on your computer or laptop, and it's fully private, uses only your data, doesn't send information.
Maybe you can name a few if you don't mind, like to the audience here, like what are examples of models that are small, that don't require some massive compute capabilities that people can use just locally, even as a small business or personally?
So Llama is one. Llama is by Meta, and then Google actually have kind of a lot of their models public and open source and downloadable as well. And so if you Google Ollama, OLLAMA, that's essentially just a piece of software that you can download to a PC or Mac, and then from there it allows you to choose which models, and it also tells you what the models are good for. So there's essentially a whole guide where you can go, okay, what am I optimizing for file size, or if I'm coding, There's so much choice out there. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Let's take maybe a final question here. Before we take some final questions, Tey, any question you feel like you should have been asked that you haven't been asked so far?
The questions have been fantastic, honestly.
Okay.
No, nothing that I haven't been asked. No.
All right. This may be a quick one. Is there any chance that we're in a bubble? And this whole AI thing is sort of going to be like, in a couple of years, everyone will be like, oh, I remember when AI was all these billions were invested, but now it's over. I think that's going to be a short answer.
Yes and no. I don't think AI will go away. I think the bubble might be with some of the companies and some of the financial stuff we're seeing, not with the core technology itself, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes, it does. All right. So in the final few minutes, our final question to you is a bit of a cliche one, so forgive us for that. So if you could leave just one piece of advice for someone who specifically wants to lead transformation in the age of AI, both sort of humanly and technically, what would that advice be?
Only one?
Can we have time for 2 or 3?
So I think first, really understand how you can start with a problem, or how you can start with context and needs, and design a process around solving for those needs as opposed to just bringing in technology. Two, I'm only gonna have to study past failures. I think there's so much that we can learn from how and where other companies have failed. I don't think people do it enough, but there is so much out there. I mean, I've seen so many YouTube videos as well where people go into detail and they even interview people from those companies. So and you also learn a lot about, you know, different organizational cultures and so on, and the impact that they have. So those would be my 2 pieces of advice.
100%. Yeah, we agree, and that's actually why we put together this webinar. You know, you can hire an expensive consultant, or you can come listen to Tey and sort of and learn there. So, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, Tey.
Thank you for having me. It's been fantastic.
All the feedback. Thank you everyone else for joining us. We will be publishing the video on YouTube, and we will circulate it with everyone. And thanks again for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.